Welcome to Patrick Henry's speech at St. John's Church, Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death class, by the Grumpy Old Vet. This is class number 8 in the series, and it gives insight to the political, emotional, economic, and social condition of the colonies, just weeks before British troops marched to Concord to seize a cache of weapons, which sparked the Civil War that would become the Revolutionary War on July 2, 1776. With that, let's move out. Welcome to the class on Patrick Henry's famous speech, Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death, brought to you by the Hillsdale Justice Project at Liberty Hall. Narrated by John Rutan. What was happening in the States. 1. Massachusetts. Open rebellion was on the verge of erupting. British troops had been sent to enforce order, and tensions were rising, especially around Boston, which was effectively under martial law. The battles of Lexington and Concord, the first armed conflicts of the Revolution, were only weeks away, April 19, 1775. 2. Virginia. The largest and wealthiest colony was split between Loyalists and Patriots. Royal Governor Lord Dunmore had threatened to use force to quell dissent, leading to growing unease. The Virginia Convention, where Henry gave his speech, was debating whether to mobilize for war or continue seeking reconciliation with Britain. 3. Colonial unity. While many colonists still hoped for peace, leaders like Henry recognized that war was inevitable. Resistance movements like the Committees of Correspondence were spreading revolutionary ideas and preparing for coordinated action. Patrick Henry's belief in divine intervention. Patrick Henry's belief in divine intervention was rooted in both personal conviction and historical examples of unlikely successes attributed to providence. Here are some reasons why he might have believed in divine support. 1. The Protestant wins of 1588. In 1588, the Spanish Armada, a massive fleet of 130 ships sent by King Philip II of Spain, attempted to invade England and overthrow Queen Elizabeth I. The plan was to rendezvous with Spanish forces in the Netherlands, but the English Navy, led by Sir Francis Drake and Lord Howard, launched fierce attacks that disrupted the Armada's formation. The decisive factor, however, was a powerful storm, dubbed the Protestant wind, that scattered the Spanish fleet, wrecking many ships along the coasts of Scotland and Ireland. The failed invasion marked the decline of Spain's naval dominance and the rise of England as a major maritime power. 2. The Glorious Revolution, 1688. The relatively bloodless overthrow of King James II in England was seen by many as a sign of divine favor in protecting Protestant liberties. Henry, as a devout Christian, would have been familiar with this event and its association with God's providence. 3. Survival of the colonies. The colonies' very existence, despite harsh conditions, Native American conflicts, and earlier European rivalries, could have been seen as evidence of God's favor. Many colonists believed they were part of a divine mission to establish liberty and religious freedom in the New World. 4. Biblical inspiration. Henry often framed the struggle for liberty in spiritual terms, likening the colonists' fight to biblical struggles where God empowered the weak to overcome mighty oppressors, e.g., David vs. Goliath. 5. Personal faith. Henry was deeply religious and believed that liberty was a God-given right. His call for divine intervention was not mere rhetoric, but a reflection of his genuine belief that their cause aligned with God's will. Henry's conviction that divine providence would aid their cause helped inspire others to embrace the inevitability of conflict and the moral justification for revolution. His speech was instrumental in shifting Virginia toward supporting armed resistance against Britain. To avoid interference from Governor Dunmore, the Second Virginia Convention met March 20, 1775 inland at Richmond, in what is now called St. John's Church, instead of the capital in Williamsburg. Delegate Patrick Henry presented resolutions to raise and establish a militia and to put Virginia in a posture of defense. Henry's opponents urged caution and patience until the Crown replied to Congress's latest petition for reconciliation, On the 23rd, Henry presented a proposal to organize a volunteer company of cavalry or infantry in every Virginia county. By custom, Henry addressed himself to the convention's president, Peyton Randolph of Williamsburg. Henry's words were not transcribed, but no one who heard them forgot their eloquence or Henry's closing words. St. John's Church, Richmond, Virginia, March 23, 1775. Mr. President, no man thinks more highly than I do of the patriotism, as well as abilities, of the very worthy gentlemen who have just addressed the House. But different men often see the same subject in different lights, and therefore I hope it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen if, entertaining as I do, opinions of a character very opposite to theirs, I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question before the House is one of awful moment to this country. For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery, and in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be the freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth, and fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time, through fear of giving offense, I should consider myself as guilty of treason towards my country, and of an act of disloyalty toward the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all earthly kings. Patrick Henry opens by acknowledging the patriotism and skill of previous speakers, but expresses his differing opinion. He declares the urgency of the debate, calling it a matter of freedom versus slavery. Henry insists on speaking his mind freely, believing that silence out of fear would be disloyal to his country and God. Mr. President, it is natural to man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to be of the number of those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not, the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. Patrick Henry warns against false hope and ignoring harsh truths, likening it to being deceived by a siren. He calls for wisdom and awareness in the struggle for liberty, stating his resolve to face the truth no matter how painful, and prepare for it. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging of the future, but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the British ministry for the last 10 years, to justify those hopes with which gentlemen have been pleased to solace themselves, and the House. Is it that insidious smile with which our petition has been lately received? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet. Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comports with these warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our land. Are fleets and armies necessary to a work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called in to win back our love? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. These are the implements of war and subjugation, the last arguments to which kings resort. Patrick Henry relies on experience to judge the future, questioning British actions over the past decade. He warns against trusting deceptive gestures, noting that the military buildup reveals intentions of war and control, not reconciliation. I ask, gentlemen, sir, what means this martial array, if its purpose be not to force us to submission? Can gentlemen assign any other possible motive for it? Has Great Britain any enemy in this quarter of the world to call for all this accumulation of navies and armies? No, sir, she has none. They are meant for us. They can be meant for no other. They are sent over to bind and rivet upon us those chains which the British ministry have been so long forging. And what have we to oppose to them? Shall we try argument? Sir, we have been trying that for the last 10 years. Have we anything new to offer upon the subject? Nothing. We have held the subject up in every light of which it is capable, but it has been all in vain. Shall we resort to entreaty and humble supplication? What terms shall we find which have not been already exhausted? Let us not, I beseech you, sir, deceive ourselves. Sir, we have done everything that could be done to avert the storm which is now coming on. Patrick Henry argues that Britain's military buildup is meant to oppress the colonies, as there are no other threats nearby. Diplomacy has failed after 10 years of efforts, leaving no other options to prevent the impending conflict. We have petitioned, we have remonstrated, we have supplicated, we have prostrated ourselves before the throne, and have implored its interposition to arrest the tyrannical hands of the ministry and parliament. Our petitions have been slighted, our remonstrances have produced additional violence and insult, our supplications have been disregarded, and we have been spurned with contempt from the foot of the throne. In vain, after these things, may we indulge the fond hope of peace and reconciliation. There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve inviolate those inestimable privileges for which we have been so long contending, if we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we have been so long engaged, and which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our contest shall be obtained, we must fight. I repeat it, sir, we must fight. An appeal to arms and to the God of hosts is all that is left us. Peaceful efforts have failed. Petitions and pleas have been ignored or met with contempt. If freedom and rights are to be preserved, there is no choice but to fight and rely on divine support. They tell us, sir, that we are weak, unable to cope with so formidable an adversary. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be the next week or the next year? Will it be when we are totally disarmed and when a British guard shall be stationed in every house? Shall we gather strength by irresolution and inaction? Shall we acquire the means of effectual resistance by lying supinely on our backs and hugging the delusive phantom of hope until our enemies shall have bound us hand and foot? Sir, we are not weak if we make a proper use of those means which the God of nature hath placed in our power. 3 millions of people, armed in the holy cause of liberty, and in such a country as that which we possess, are invincible by any force which our enemy can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. We're not weak unless we fail to act. Waiting only makes us vulnerable. With unity, the cause of liberty, and divine support, 3 million people in this land can resist any force. We won't fight alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations, and who will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is to the vigilant, the active, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat, but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat it, sir, let it come. God oversees nations and will send allies. Victory favors the brave and alert. There's no choice now, only submission or freedom. The chains of tyranny are already here. War is inevitable. Let it come. It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. There's no peace. The war has already begun. Our brothers are fighting. Why do we wait? Is life worth living as slaves? God forbid. As for me, give me liberty or give me death. Source Wirt William. Sketches of the Life and Character of Patrick Henry, Philadelphia, 1836, as reproduced in the World's Great Speeches. Lewis Copeland and Lawrence W. Lamb, Eds Church, New York, 1973. Conclusion. At the time of Patrick Henry's famous speech at St. John's Church in March 1775, tensions between the American colonies and Britain were at a boiling point. The British had imposed numerous taxes and acts, such as the Stamp Act and the Coercive Acts, which angered the colonists and fueled resentment. The First Continental Congress had convened in 1774 to coordinate a response, resulting in a boycott of British goods, but no resolution had been reached. By 1775, British troops were mobilizing in the colonies, and the colonists were organizing militias in preparation for potential conflict. That concludes the 8th class in this series on Patrick Henry's famous speech at St. John's Church, "Give me liberty or give me death." I hope you found this information helpful and entertaining. I will see you in Class 9, where we will go over the Declaration of Independence. Fall out.